Pink and Trouble there here on Radio Ulster this afternoon. Well, I'm a wee bit shaky because I'm sitting across from a living legend. A living legend. Hello, Rosemary, how are you?
Hello there, Nuala. How's about you?
You don't actually talk like that. I was a bit disappointed because I used to take you off on the Hole in the Wall gang. We do Rosemary, but and then I had my...
Well, I do on stage. My accent seems to be stronger on stage.
I know. Then I meet you in real life and you're actually quite refined.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that now, Nuala. Get out of here.
Well, no, you've gone all Newry on us. Well, you're here for a panto. I'm going to play a little bit of a song they're actually going to be doing in the panto that you're doing. This is Rosemary and the answer to everything.
Don't ask me a mountain of questions when there is simply no answer to give. If you love me, really love me as I love you, it's the answer to everything. If you do, don't give me.
Oh, that's the answer to everything. There's not a, as you would say, Rosemary, not a...
Bring tears to a glass eye.
It's true, there won't be a dry seat in the house when you sing that in the panto. So you're in panto. Oh, yes, you are.
Oh, no, I'm not. Oh,
Well-
yes, I am.
That's not her forgetting what she's doing. She's just getting in the mood. Well, thank you for coming in. I know you're in the middle of rehearsals for Aladdin. It's the first time the Crescent Arts Centre in Belfast has done a panto.
Yes.
How exciting to be well, you're not the dame, you're the genie.
Genie of the Lamp, which is quite a nice girly role for me, because normally I'm playing boys like Robin Hood, Dick Whittington, and, you know...
But you actually
Jack
get to wear
and
a
Beanstalk.
dress and all that.
Well, I'm not going to give it away, but I'll be wearing something leggy.
Something like it. Well, which brings me
leggy
to...
poos.
Do you know that this woman's legs, are they still insured by Lloyd's of London?
Yes.
Wow, how much
Yes.
for? For how much?
Well, a lot of money. This was years ago when I did a tour for an album called Teardrops and Romance, and I was right in the middle of a big tour, and there was a photograph on the album showing a bit of leg. And the theatre in Lewisham was run by what they call the loony lefts, and they said that the photograph was demeaning to women, as shown too much leg, put a passport size up, and the press picked up on it, and the local press, and then the Sun newspaper ran. Oh, it was in every paper, and I was even on News at 10.
Oh, for flip's
So
sake.
I was.
You and your legs.
Me and my legs. So my manager got an offer from Lloyd's to get them insured.
Oh, I see. So they
just
came to you.
Yes, came to my manager.
Wow, they didn't miss
who
a
was
trick.
well in the know.
Well, I don't know that you would call yourself a feminist icon, but I'd say a lot of women would see you as a bit of an icon. I mean, it's a far cry from, Lloyd's of London and packing out the Palladium that you grew up. I love the story about your first audience. Tell us about when you were a wee girl. Who did you sing to?
Well, I was brought up on a farm, you see, and I used to have to milk the cows every morning before I went to school. And I used to sing to them because the acoustics in the byre. And I used to sing, "Oh, Danny boy," and they would wag their tails, and you knew that the cows wouldn't kick you, because you were always scared stiff in case you got a big... They would kick the bucket over, And I always knew it was like a reverb on a microphone, in the byre.
Yeah.
And
it's like singing in the bathroom. In the shower.
yes, but with the acoustics, absolutely.
Only without
Everybody
the
sort of loves
cows.
to sing in the shower, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. And did you milk them in time?
Oh, all the time, yes, that was me drums. Oh, yes, when they would squirt the milk into the bucket and that there. But it was hard going, because you'd have to rush home and get into my school uniform and, get to school.
Yeah, we were just listening there to people talking about families and asked them what things were like in the older days. And I mean, not that we're that older, but, things have changed a lot. I can't imagine many kids doing that nowadays, doing what you used to do in the morning. Could you?
No, not at all. And they're lifted and laid, aren't they? I mean, the parents drive them to school. We had to sort of walk or run my sisters and I, we had to run to catch the bus, and that was a good couple of mile before you got to the bus.
Wow, it's no
and
wonder
then you don't know whether you're going to miss it, and then you're late for school, and so it was pretty nerve-wracking. You'd have to be very early.
There was a whole clatter of you in your family. Was there 6 of you?
Yeah, 5 girls and 1 boy, yes.
Yeah, and then...
A clatter, I like that.
And a clatter. Well, there were 7 of us, 6 of you, so you were small by standards. But
no television in our house.
No, clearly. I know, we and ours only worked every other day. But you went off then. Obviously, you weren't going to be a farmer, no matter how much you liked the cows.
I didn't like it at all.
But you went off to London. I believe you had a wee stint as a hairdresser. Did that not go so well?
I did in Newry, yes. Well, it was an absolute disaster. And they left me in charge while the woman who owned the place, she went away on holiday. And I wasn't long doing my apprenticeship. I mean, I wasn't ready to cut hair. And it was Pensioners' Day. And this wee woman had a very short neck, God love her, and flabba-lob earlobes.
Very short neck.
And a wee short neck. And they always wanted it short on the neck, you know, and curls on the top, you see, for the perm. And because they would want no money and they wanted it to last.
Put their money's worth, yes.
And there's me trying to get it as short at the back as I could. And I cut a piece of a woman's ear off. And I would never have known it had she not had a white towel, and all the blood was all over the towel, and she ran down the stairs. Well, she didn't run because she was pretty old, God love her. But it was all around the town. And then another time, a woman took an epileptic fit underneath the hairdryer. And it went round the town of Newry that I electrocuted the woman.
You were just the walking disaster.
I'm an absolute walking disaster, Nuala, I tell you. And I thought, I'm not cut out for it.
Ear, that was a good one. So you headed off. I mean, go to London. What age were you when you set foot in London? Big lights?
Probably about 18.
Well, what was that like? Like, literally looking back, there's a wee cutty going
scary.
over to London. Did you have any contacts?
I went over after my 18th birthday. And very scary. Of course, I had no contacts, but I just did. I did the New Faces and Search for a Star. That's a good platform. Like Simon Cowell has the Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah,
and the
it was
X
the
Factor.
version of all that, the talent.
Yes,
but you didn't get that straight away, did you?
Not at all. So I just
You remind me, you remind me of Barbara Streisand, her story when she talks about going to the big city. And now you weren't told you couldn't do it, but she was sort of told she was funny and she was odd and blah, blah, blah. And she just went and literally knocked the doors and wouldn't take no for an answer. Did you?
Well, I think when you've got a personality and when you're Irish, it does help. People love the Irish. And I just asked around for agents and I got to meet a couple of agents, and that's how it all started. But you
still had to do your apprenticeship in the working clubs.
Absolutely, in the working men's clubs. And there was places like Hartlepool, which is up the northeast, and it was known as not a very nice area.
Very rough, yeah.
And they used to sort of say, watch your car, you'll have no wheels on it when you come out.
So did you pay the boys to mind it for you?
Well, if I could find some boys.
I mean, did you intend to be a comedian, or did the funny stuff just come out between songs? I mean,
that's exactly, Nuala. When I'd done Search for a Star, and I knew I wasn't going to win. It was a group called the Nobodies that won,
and where are they now?
But so I was interviewed by the radio presenter Steve Jones, and I asked him would he ask me a couple of questions so I could do a couple of gags.
Oh, good.
And I says, I want people to think I've just got off the boat from Ireland, And I said, just ask me if I've enjoyed myself since I've come to London. And of course, he did ask me that there, and I told the story. Well, I told the story about milking the cows as well, but also I said everybody thought I was Terry Wogan in drag. It was funny at the time, do you know what I mean? And
well, see, if you did that now, that's what they would call viral. That would have just gone viral.
Yes.
Like it did the equivalent before the internet and whatever of people. It just spread like wildfire.
So I got a couple of nice laughs from the audience, and then what happened then was that I didn't get a recording contract or anything, because that's what really why you go on these shows, And but my agent Norman Teal, God bless him, he was worked out of Blackpool, and he says, I've just had a phone call and they want you to do this game show called Punchlines with Lenny Bennett. That was prime time on a Saturday night.
Yes.
And I was on nearly every one. And I'm not very good at saying big words. And I used to get laughs without knowing why I got laughs, because I couldn't pronounce names of different, the questions that I was asked and all that there. And that sort of made me a bit of a household name. And then if it wasn't for Frank Carson, when I did my first pantomime in the Opera House in Belfast at the time, he helped finance my my record deal. And that's where I got my first record, and then that led to going into the charts, and then albums followed since then.
Just 20 albums that have all gone gold
Yes,
and
gold
platinum.
and platinum, yes.
Incredible.
So Frank was
career.
awful good to me. He took me underneath his wing and just gave me lots of great advice, you know, because he was a dab hand at the old pantomime as well, you know.
And do you think that's part of it, you know, that it's not even what you know, it's who you know, it's the right person at the right time who believes in you. Did that just give you the boost for your confidence? Well, he gave you the money as well, which is a big start.
You see, and he did it through Barney Eastwood. He introduced me to Barney Eastwood, and between the two of them, they came up with the monies, and I recorded my first song, When I Leave the World Behind, in Belfast. And then the Chaz and Dave show was on prime time again on a Saturday night, and it was set in a pub in a studio.
They used to do all these sort of shows where you could go on and
these were great shows. Everybody would be singing along and having their pints and their gin and tonics. And that's how I got me the actual record. I got a record deal. You have to record it first, but if you don't have a deal, that's no good either.
I know, there's no point
so
putting it out.
I had my pick of the record companies, and that's how it all.
And then you were in London, you were the toast of the town, and nothing would do you but you would have to go to Hollywood and you'd have to expand. I guess that's what drives somebody like you. You're very creative, you've got a big vision. What was your vision then? What would you, if you could have had anything you wanted, did you want to be a film star, or did you just want to do the big shows?
Well, at that time, and even now, I'd like to do more acting, to be honest with you. I've already done a movie called Cold Fish, and I've appeared in Doctors, which is a soap that's on in the afternoon. And I'd love to do soaps. But at that time, I thought myself, if I get the London Palladium underneath my belt, and 3 times I'd done it.
I know, and sold it out.
That was the scariest thing. I thought, Judy Garland sang on the London Palladium. Dear God, this is me from Newry, for God's sake, what's going on?
You're thinking I'll be on drugs by the time I get out of the dressing room?
I thought I had to be pushed on, practically.
I'm sure.
And then, of course, I always wanted to play Vegas. But I decided I'd go to LA first and study acting, because you've got to wait on your visa to come through, so you can't be working. Do you know what I mean? So I went to the Havana Chubbuck School of Acting, where Halle Berry got her break, and I studied acting. And now that wasn't easy, because they'd give you
because you're going there like a nobody, I guess. You're just one of the normal people there.
And you'd have to go away, learn the script, and then come back, and you'd have to get your own props and wigs and stuff like that there, you know. And I played the first woman. The first one I had to play was the first woman that was hanged in England, Ruth Ellis.
Oh, the last woman.
The last woman, rather.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, they're trying to tell me something.
She died on her first performance.
Exactly.
And she died every night afterwards.
So,
but I can't believe you met John Travolta. Like, you became pretty close with him. What was he?
Well, it's a big thing in Hollywood. This was before I went to Vegas, and I lived in Vegas for a couple of years. I didn't like the heat out there. LA, I preferred.
Vegas is wild. I mean, it literally is I was there one time in May, and at midnight I went out for a walk on the strip, and I thought my sandals were breaking. The glue in my sandals was melting.
I know.
It was 38 degrees
Oh, no,
at
I
midnight.
couldn't stop. Not with our colouring. You know what I mean?
Well, it was just like you couldn't breathe.
You couldn't breathe, no, because there's no air, because it's the desert, you see.
Yeah, exactly.
But you see, a
Travolta-
big thing in Hollywood is that you're invited to a lot of parties, and you network.
Oh, yes.
And you go to brunches and lunches, or they call it mostly brunch, and you network and you give out your card.
Schmooze.
And you schmooze around the place.
And you order an egg white omelette, and then always order off the menu.
Everybody's on the Atkins diet.
And don't eat anything. That's the other thing.
That's why I did that. I still do when I want to lose a few pounds. I'll go on that and cut out the carbs.
Yeah.
You can lose weight within days.
Cut out the carbs.
Cut out the carbs. No carbs before marbs. So John Travolta was one of the most interesting people I met, and he introduced me to a lot of agents in LA. And of course, Tony Curtis, who was also a painter, and Debbie Reynolds lived in Vegas, and
Amazing.
And Lorna Luft came, Judy Garland's daughter. She came to see me when I eventually did start singing, when my visa came through.
And did the likes of Tony Curtis and all them, did you meet them?
Yes.
And you were on stage with
but
them?
More than once. And Leslie Nielsen, the actor.
Oh, great.
Yeah, he was so funny. He
Good luck,
owned the
everyone.
bar there. And so I was there, and I have a great photograph on my wall at home. Well, it's full of photographs.
I'm sure.
With Johnny Cash being one of them.
Wow. I mean, you know, people listening who maybe were too young to remember when you started out. I mean, your sort of life, it is a kind of Judy Garland. It's almost, I know your hero is Bette Midler, but it's got that feel of, you know, she does acting, she does singing, she's a funny woman. You kind of paved the way for a lot of the other women that are coming up. But there's not, I can't think of anybody else who does that mix that you're doing.
Well, you see, years ago, you either were a singer or an actress. You couldn't do both. But nowadays, I think you can. And you asked me a question earlier on, which I don't think I answered properly, about the jokes in between songs. But you had to when you did the workingmen's clubs when I was starting out, because I mean,
keep their attention.
I used to do Sunday lunchtime shows, and they'd be reading the paper and drinking their pint, and nothing. So I'd say, "You're all right there, Mrs. All right, how you doing, love? You're all right there."
Well, I'll tell you with that accent,
a great crowd.
With that accent, they were probably terrified that you were going to pull
so
something.
you had to sort of like do audience participation.
Well, what have you been? We're going to have to wind it up. Unfortunately, we've only got an hour on the show. It flies in. We could have you on all day. But if you had any ambition now, you've said Bette Midler is a real idol. Would you love to do something with her?
Yes, of course.
Anything?
Yes, anything at all.
Tell you what, we'll get her on the phone after this.
Oh dear God, I'd love to work with Liam Neeson, acting wise.
I want to see him.
I will watch anything that he's in.
Well,
I just think he's a credit to Ireland. He really is.
Can I tell you, I'm related to him, so if you want to rub me for
you
luck,
really?
I am. I'll tell you that off the
sake.
microphone. That's one of my claims to fame.
Oh my gosh.
He's all going around telling people he's related to me. Listen, it's been a delight, Rosemary.
Oh,
You're a
thank
hero
you,
of
Nuala.
mine, and I was going to say I've never met a girl like you before, which is pretty apt because here comes that song. Good luck. You're in Aladdin at the Crescent Arch, 20th to the 22nd.
Yes.
We'll see you on stage.
I can't
Thank
wait.
you.
Can't wait.
Bye.
Bye.